What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for yet another panel show. And finally, we've got some happy faces on the back of 3 points against Brentford on the weekend. And we have got Johnny H and Jacob, both obviously returning guests. Jacob, been doing a brilliant job on the pump up so far this season. So I thank you very much for hosting those. But Jacob, how are you doing? I know it's early for you out there in El Paso.
Technically, I think this is about even later than most of those pre-match pump-up shows we'd be doing on the weekend. So thank you so much for that invite. Thank you so much for the invite today. And good morning from El Paso, Texas.
Good to have you, my friend. And Johnny H, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Listen, 2 wins on the bounce. Absolutely buzzing, you know. I wasn't buzzing as you guys after the drive back from Coventry. But that was a nice lift on the weekend. I think all Spurs fans needed that. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all ready to go, ready for the next game.
Absolutely. I think that sums it up perfectly. It was just a weekend that all of us needed on the back of the North London derby defeat, on the back of a poor performance away at Coventry. It was just good to see a good performance, chance creation, Dom Solanke getting his first goal for, and most importantly, 3 points at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We got 4 talking points today, and we're going to start off talking about Ange Postecoglou. And we did see a few tactical tweaks in the game against Brentford. And is that a sign of things to come, Jacob? Do you think after that game you're more confident now that Ange is showing those signs of adaptability?
Well, I think it was always something that we looked for, right? Was just the minor adaptations to the little things that aren't working. And we sort of saw that a little bit. I think primarily with the fullbacks, from my amateur perspective, was that the fullbacks were inverting a little bit less. They were not crowding as many areas. Madison, I think with a little bit more room to operate, you could see what he could do there. Now, in regards to Ange, I've always felt like that it wasn't the tactics that weren't working. It was the players being ineffective in the tactics that wasn't working. Because when you go back to the 2 losses versus Newcastle and Arsenal, there's 35 shots in 180 minutes, and Heung-min Son's only taking 2 of those. That is a problem for me. Now, I saw Son taking a shot early on within 10 minutes from outside the box. That was very nice to see. I think it's just little things that the players need to do, maybe little things that Ange needs to specifically manage them on, because it was a stark difference from the squad that we saw versus Coventry, the style of play, the way that the cohesion was. In Coventry, it just looked like every time we got the ball, give it to Destiny. He knows what to do. And so this seemed a lot more fluid, and I thought Destiny had a better game. I thought everyone had a much improved game. Again, I'm not trying to get too much into the players just yet, but from an Ange Postecoglou perspective, you know, if the players are unable to do the things that we are trying to ask them to do, which is just be 15 to 20% more effective in the final third. You do that, we win the game versus Arsenal, we win the game versus Newcastle, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know,
Leicester as well.
Leicester as well. Again, it's just a 15% efficiency. That's all I ask. That's all the system requires you to have, because again, 35 shots in 180 minutes, and one of them go in off of an own goal. That's an effectiveness from a player perspective, in my opinion. And I know there's been a lot of discourse around whether it's Ange's tactics or the players. And for me personally, you know, Coventry, I felt like was more on Ange Postecoglou than any of those losses in the Premier League, because the system set them up. It's just we didn't finish and do the last part. So to me, it was always an indication of, will these players put it all out on the line for Ange? And it really looked like these players were playing for him and fighting for him and showing that, look, we still believe in him. We still believe. I think a lot of fans were also questioning whether the players even believed in Ange anymore, that they thought that this was the right way forward. And things were getting a little gray there. The skies were looking a little bleak. And I'm just glad that we're sailing right now and the sun's shining and we're on good course.
Johnny, I know you've had a few things to say about Ange Postecoglou over the past 6 months or whatever it may be. After the Brentford game and seeing those tweaks, getting Destiny and Porro maybe more on the outside and getting Brennan and Sonny more in maybe the positions where they would like to take up on the pitch more centrally, and getting goal contributions against Brentford. Are you more happy with that system that you saw, or do you still have a lot of question marks regarding Ange?
Well, should we be applauding a manager for playing Destiny Udogie in his correct position? I mean, I watched a lot of his games when we signed him for Conte as a left wing back, and the guy likes to hug that left-hand touchline, literally hug the touchline, pick up the ball, drive along that left-hand touchline with pace and power and cut in. When he's playing inverted, he's running into Piccadilly Circus. He's got nowhere to go. He's not playing as effective. He's just not effective. And the same goes for James Maddison. James Maddison needs space to operate. And because it's so inverted and so vacuum packed, there's no room for him to move in the middle of the park. So he's had to come deep. I personally don't think he's as affected as a deep lying playmaker. Now, it's different when you're picking up the ball off the halfway line. But we saw on Saturday, that, when you play Destiny out wide, he's playing with a freedom. The space that Madison had, that was the best James Madison has played since before the Chelsea game last year.
I think in a Spurs shirt in general.
Could possibly be, right? It's the first time he scored. That's why he whipped off his shirt. Okay. He could have celebrated. I mean, I thought the celebration was a bit over the top for the third goal against Brentford. But the point is here, it was his frustrations coming out. I understand it. But him and Bentancur, the transitions that Bentancur was doing, picking up the ball from Romero and moving that ball so quickly with him and Madison, and Dogie out wide, should be appreciated. I'm not sure it should be applauded because, I've been crying out for this for 6-7 months, right? Since Madison came back from his injury. And I'm happy that it's happened, but I still wonder why there is some sort of necessity to play players in a position that doesn't necessarily suit them. I'll give you an example. There was maybe if you look at Spence, in my opinion, having been dropped from the Coventry game, I've got no idea why he didn't start. He's not starting in Europa League games. He starts on the bench and he's putting Gray in at right back over him. I don't understand that. Are we then to applaud Postecoglou when he puts Gray in the middle of the park and we say, wow, it's a masterstroke. He's put Gray in the middle of the park because he is a midfielder, right? He's a 6, he's an 8. If you see him, for me, he looks like a young Isco. When you see him play, how he played for Leeds, he hasn't had the chance to show that in the Spurs shirt right now. So all I'm saying is I'm very happy to see it, but I really don't see why he's putting square pegs in round holes or playing players out of position. Can we do that against Man United? I'd be interesting to see, because does he want to let Bruno Fernandes have that space in the middle of the park, or does he want to congest it back up, and will he invert the backs again for that game, or will he enable Porro to go wide? Because they play with some good width, Ten Hag, with Garnacho and Ahmad and a few others in the team. It'd be interesting to see. As I say, one swallow doesn't make a summer, but it was really positive. I was really happy to see it. All I'm saying here, guys, is I'm not trying to be negative. All I'm trying to say is that this should have happened a long time ago, in my opinion.
If I may, I was
go on, Jacob.
While Johnny was talking, because this has been a sticking point for me, where I felt like from week one, Destiny has been coming under a lot of criticism as far as positioning, and then with what Johnny was saying, being used in the right position, hugging the touchline. Now, I went back and looked at the last 4 Premier League matches, including Brentford. Positionally, as far as the heat map's concerned, it's almost identical, and it's more heavily concentrated. I think the reason we saw that space was because of Brentford, not because of at one point they were pressing and they were coming out and they were trying to play the game that we wanted to play, and to me, I think that allowed for that space for James Maddison, because I don't always think that it's Destiny's fault. Like one of the things week 1 versus Leicester City that I heard a lot, but not from Johnny specifically, but I heard around the works was that Destiny was crowding Madison's space, and that's why Madison wasn't able to create. He was the only one out there who was trying. And then I'm looking at the numbers and I look at the heat map, it doesn't really reflect the narrative in that instance. And then it kind of Destiny actually had a couple of bad games after that. I think match day 2 and 3 were pretty poor from him. And then he looked a little bit better versus Arsenal. But again, it was Arsenal, one of the best teams in the league. And I think that was the best match we saw from Destiny this season. And I think a little bit of that is him coming back into fitness, but I don't know that it's necessarily him always clogging the way. I just think it was a more of having Pedro Porro stay back when Destiny pushes up and vice versa, and having
Like
less
Conte
of them.
like
Yeah,
Conte did.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
But
I agree with Johnny in a sense, like utilizing these players to the best of their abilities, we have to try and do more of. Destiny is the best when he's got that room to run and he's got that space to be strong with the ball and then keep going. We saw that versus Brentford. And I think that it's the same thing with Son. When he gets a little bit of space, I want him to be confident enough to shoot it because he is the best finisher we have in this. Sorry, I don't want to digress. I just want to touch on that Destiny point because I feel like the heat map doesn't say that he's been doing anything differently. I just think systematically throughout the 90, it is looking different. But positionally, as far as the heat map is concerned, it's all the same spaces.
But Jacob, what it did do, I do think there were a few differences with Destiny. And yes, you're right. He has been taking up a lot of the same positions this season. But what was the difference in this Brentford game? Instead of coming inside a lot of the time, which he has done in the first 4 games, he stuck out wide more than he has done in the past in the first 4 games, which allowed Sonny to move inside and operate in those areas which we love seeing him in. And he got 2 assists. He was able to take shots off like you mentioned earlier on in the stream. And that was the key difference for me. Like, he did still come inside, but he didn't come inside anywhere near as much that he has been doing in the first 4 games of the season. And I think that's the tweaks that we're talking about. And, you know, the narrative was about Ange Postecoglou, about, you know, he's not able to adapt. He's married to this system. He's married to the complete inverted fullbacks, and he's not going to change it for love nor money. And he backs the system, and he thinks it's going to work eventually. But we didn't see that. I think against Brentford, we saw a clear kind of tactical flexibility, and not only about the inverted fullbacks, but in terms of how much possession we were having as well. Like, usually we're getting 65+% possession. We actually got less possession than Brentford.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, isn't that, you know, when you look at Eddie Howe at Newcastle, you know, in fact, I saw a stat the other day, I think it was Wimbledon. They had 22% possession, but won 3-0. You know, you have to be flexible in a game to suit your opponents. And, you know, Ange stated so many times that he's not interested in the opponents. He's interested in his game. And I think that's foolhardy. That, you know, that might work at, you know, when you're you know, Celtic and you're playing Falkirk, or you're the Brisbane Roar playing some unknown bunch of Aborigines or whoever they are in the team. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work in the Premier League. And, you know, I think, you know, you have to be respectful for the oppositions and the quality, the high quality of tactical nous. And I think Jacob was right. Some of this yesterday, on Saturday, was to do with Thomas Frank, who I think is a brilliant tactician, but he was missing 5 first teamers on the weekend. And let's be honest, let's break this down. You know, we had 23 shots, only 10 were on target. They had 6 on target, and at one stage, for quite a long period in that second half, when it was 2-1, and Buemo and Sade, who came on as a sub, both had 2 very good chances to level it. And we only put this game to bed in the 88th minute. And, you know, I think, you know, what we were saying before and what Jacob was saying before, we have to be more clinical. You know, we have to put teams to bed because we can't give them the opportunity. There were 2 very good opportunities for them to come away with a draw. And then we would have been having almost the same conversation as we had over Leicester and Newcastle about the story of what should have been, what could have been, but wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the reason we saw Son and Johnson in particularly have a bit more space and be a bit more effective in this game is because Ange definitely decided to make this game more of a transitional game than a heavy possession-based, trying to break down a low block kind of game, which is what we've seen over the past, you know, for the first 4 games of the season. Spurs have been the ones to dominate possession, allow the opposition to get back in their low block, allow them to get set, and that's why Johnson and Son have been forced a lot wide, not forced, but by design, Ange's system gets them wider because that's where the space is, and he manipulates the pitch to get these wingers into one-on-one situations out wide, so they can make it. So he wants their attacking players in space, because obviously when you're playing a low block, and if you're going to play Johnson and Son a bit more central against a low block, you're not going to find any space. They're not going to be able to make an impact. That's why he gets them wider. However, in the Brentford game, they played a back three with Lewis Potter-Keane, who's basically a winger playing a left wing back, and what that meant was when we got the transitions, there was a lot of space in that kind of space in between the wing back and the centre back, and it meant that they could just vacate those kind of spaces, which is a lot more central, and just attack those spaces directly as soon as we got the ball. And Johnson and Son are very much more effective in more transitional games. That's where they've been their best in their careers. Son is always best in transition. I think Johnson, when he was at Forest, he's always been more comfortable when there's a big transition. He's got a lot of space to play in. So I don't think it was a case of when it comes to Ange changing things tactically, I definitely think he did that. I definitely think there was a big change to make Spurs take advantage of more transitions in this kind of game than there was in previous games. But was that because of how Brentford play? Is this something we're going to see more going forward? Obviously, we have to wait and see. In the next game, are we going to go back to having a lot more possession? Because I think Ange, in his perfect system, does want to have possession. I think he wants to have a high amount of possession. He wants control. He wants a lot of the ball. He wants to have control of the game, so the team is responding to what we're doing rather than us responding to what the other team are doing. And I think in a perfect Ange system, he'll want teams to be adapting to us and sitting in a low block. And then what he would want is the players that we have on the ball being able to break teams down, being good in small spaces. But unfortunately, right now, we have Son and Johnson out wide who just aren't very suited to that. So in this game, it was much more suited to them because they had that space to run into in transition, and that really worked for us. I don't think it was us doing anything different positionally. I think it was much more to do with giving up the ball a bit more, being a lot more aggressive in the pressing, allowing Brentford to try and build up the ball from the back, and then obviously we will just hit them on the press and then just be very, very direct in transition, and that really worked in Son and Johnson's favour, and that's why they got a lot more joy, in my opinion. Obviously, Brentford also did the man-to-man marking, and a lot of other teams haven't really done that. They've kind of done the zonal as restricting space. They went man-to-man, and that meant as soon as Madison wriggled away from them, that kind of did force transitions on them, because what it means is players get attracted to him, or he gets a lot of space. One of the two things happen because he was so good individually. That absolutely made a big difference to how Brentford were going to try and set up as well. So I definitely think Ange adapted in this game. I'm not sold yet whether that's going to be something we're going to see going forward, or is this something specific to this game? We'll have to wait and see. But definitely, I do think Ange adapted in terms of his possession-heavy base game, and it definitely turned into a more transitional game in this one, I felt.
Did you get frustrated, though? I mean, I don't know about you guys. Maybe it was just me. I just felt a little bit frustrated. Listen, before we got the third goal, I must hasten to add, before we got the third goal, obviously the third goal calmed everybody down and we were all rejoicing. But we had the second most touches in the box. Even though we had less possession than Brentford, we had 57 touches in the opposition box. And there were moments in that game where I'm thinking, shoot, how many touches do you want? Sonny should have done better, right? There were moments where, back in the day, Sonny would have finished that. He wouldn't be trying to take it round the keeper or having extra touches. There were moments in the box where we looked like we were, being authoritative in the box there and driving into the box, but still that reluctance. Like I say, 23 shots, but those shots were often third and fourth touches when hit the ball first time. Shift the ball, bang, right? Don't allow your defenders to reset. And as I say, 57 touches. I think Leicester was 60 or 61 touches. That's the most any team has had. It might have been overtaken yesterday by Manchester City in that disgraceful game performance by Arsenal. But it's just something. I think if we can tweak it, Jacob talked about 15%. I just think it's the difference between a winning mentality, the belief that we should be shooting and taking chances and scoring goals from these chances. Because if you don't finish your dinner in the Premier League, you only need one chance and one chance. You can sit back and be under the cosh and have one chance and score a goal, and so you have to finish.
Yeah, was
I agree with that.
Was it the first game yesterday that we've actually scored over 2 goals since Aston Villa? Have we scored over 2 goals since then?
Oh, Everton.
Everton, yeah.
Yeah, Everton.
Forgot about that
It
game.
does seem a long time.
Didn't we score 3 in the last match of the season?
Against Sheffield United.
Oh, yeah, we did that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Fair
count
play.
that one.
Fair play. My memory's foggy after the Aston Villa game. But Jacob, are you?
I mostly remember this because I'm always defending Ange Postecoglou, it seems.
Are you more confident after that game that it is going to click for us this season and we can show a bit of consistency now with Man United and Brighton away both coming around the corner?
Absolutely. I've felt confident the entirety of this season. I will admit, up until the Coventry game about 75 minutes in, I was feeling very, very confident because, again, I've always looked at it from, in the heat of the battle when it finishes, yes, I'm frustrated, I'm upset, I'm angry, and I'm looking at the numbers like, where did this go wrong? Because, my eyes will tell me a certain story, the numbers will tell me another story, and I feel like for me, I find my best balance is somewhere in the middle. So a lot of times during a watch long, after a watch long, I'm fuming, I'm losing my head, but then I'm, later or during the, my post-match thoughts, I'm looking through things and I'm saying, well, hang on, we had 20 some shots, and how many of those were on target? The XG was low, so clearly we're not taking the best of chances, but the system and the tactics are setting us up into a chance where we are creating these. And I felt like a lot of our goals in the transition play would be nullified had we been more efficient in our attempts in their final third, because the best George Washington once said, the best form of a defense is a potent offense. And you know what? He won a war with that mentality. So I believe in it fully, that if you just go out there and bang more goals than your opponent, it really don't matter how many you concede. It's not a reflection of Romero, Van de Ven, Vicario, etc. But, admittedly, Pedro Porro did worry me a little bit. I didn't know who number 23 was before yesterday, and he was cooking Pedro Porro. He had him dancing left, dancing right. So that was a concern. And I thought in the second half, Pedro Porro defensively much more improved. So the things that worried me about Brentford are the same things that's worried me the entirety of the season, which is what Johnny and I have been saying, which is scoring the goals. Because again, versus Brentford, we were up 2-1. There was chances where we could have gone up 3-1, 4-1. And then there were chances for them to tie it 2-2, 2-2. And then they kind of get a little lucky. We kind of get a little lucky. I know Ange doesn't like the word luck, but I believe in luck and leprechauns and all that. So I feel like we were getting a little bit lucky. And then you know what? We get that third goal and finally put it to bed. But we could have got that third goal at the end of the first half. We could have gotten it at some point in the start of the second half. And we failed to do that. Therefore, they started. Then you saw, what was it, about like 70 to 80 minute-ish? They started growing in their confidence. Mm-hmm. Now they're putting nice sequences of passages of play together. And it was like, okay, I'm getting a little worried. We're going to drop points now. We just got to hold on. And then it was like, eventually everything became good because you know what happened? Basuma got stuck in. Cuti Romero picked up the ball, pushed forward, curled it around a guy, found Heung-min Son in space. And look, James Maddison, this is my thing with him. I'm glad he got the goal, because if you go back to Dominic Solanke's first goal, he would have had an easy tap in if James Maddison wasn't tunnel visioned. He just shot it straight at the keeper, Dominic Solanke, with the cleanup. To me, Madison as a vice captain got to be a little bit better in those situations. Share the sugar to a little bit. Take a note from Son's playbook, because I think the captaincy armband has made Son more reluctant to shoot and prevalent to just pass the ball, get people involved. And it's like Sarr comes on 45 seconds later, has a crack from 30 yards. It's like, son, you're in the same position 10 minutes ago. Do that. You're way better at it than Sarr. No offense, but you are. And, we do these things. It's always just been a matter of wait for it to click, wait for these things to gel, because the tactics are there. The chances are there. It's just we got to capitalize on them. Brennan Johnson could have had a hat trick of goals, but he only got one. That's good. That's okay. We got to build on that. But again, efficiency, just 15% more efficiency in the final third, and we win those 2 games like I mentioned. I kind of dwell on it a little bit because it's like, we didn't get worked by Arsenal. We didn't get worked by Newcastle. Yes, they beat us in moments, but overall, we showed that we have the ability to control a game, and we just need that last bit, that last part. You know what I mean?
Did you
We
not think
talked up
that
the
was the
girl all
best?
night, just didn't get her number.
For me, that was our best goal of the season, our best team goal of the season. The interception by Basuma, and the fact Romero was actually running onto that pass. It wasn't a stationary pass. He was literally on the run. That pass was absolutely superb to Sonny. And Sonny, for once, absolutely inch perfect pass, curling pass on for Madison, who finished it with the chip with his weaker foot. And, I thought those were the sort of goals that excite me as a football fan. The others were two mistakes. Madison was Brendan Johnson's was a lovely finish. Both of those goals came from Brentford mistakes. I'd like to see more goals like we saw that scored with that third goal, which was all of our making. And it really was a lovely team goal. And hopefully that'll give us some belief.
But Johnny, you say it was mistakes, but isn't that the whole game, to be high pressing,
put
the team under pressure and force those mistakes? And we're actually the best team in the league at that. I think we're the most tackles in the opposition final, in the opposition's defensive third we've made. Like as much as if you're the team support, if you're a Brentford fan, you probably say, "Oh, those are sloppy passes." But we do that to every team. Even against Arsenal, we were winning the ball hard at the pitch on numerous occasions. We just didn't make the most of it. So, as much as you want to say we should be creating our own goals, that's one way we do it, and we do it consistently.
I was going to say, though, to add to that, the game changer, on Saturday, I keep saying yesterday because it feels like it was yesterday, was Dominic Solanke. He leads the press. We have missed someone who leads the press. He pressed and he pressed and he pressed, and it's sort of infectious, He makes the others come on and press with him. We've been pressing individually. You've seen moments where Romero has got so frustrated he's trying to press from the front or press from the back and leaving gaping holes. Solanke was pressing so hard. He was absolutely finished after about 75 minutes. He had his hands on his knees, but that press really was infectious with the rest of the squad. And I felt that was the first time that I could actually see us really pressing as a unit, which is what you have to do if you're going to play the press game. And whilst I agree with you, Simeon, that's what we want to do.
That's what we do, mate. That's what we do,
mate.
That's who we are.
That's who we are.
That's who we are, mate.
That's who we are, mate. It is what it is. But I think with Solanke, he is the cherry on the cake, which enables us to really fulfil that from the top to the bottom. And when we've been playing with the false nine with no Richarlison and what have you, I don't think that we've really seen that. So please God, well, listen, look, the proof is in the pudding. The next two Premier League games will really tell us once and for all where we are this season. If we can come away with 2 wins or a draw and a win, then I think we're off and running, and we can all be really positive about the season ahead.
Agreed.
We go into Old Trafford, and if we get those 3 points, now I'm not saying that I'm going to lose my cool with excitement, but I am saying that is exactly what Johnny said. I absolutely will. Shirtless for sure. Sorry for the family, but I just think it's one of those things. I've been waiting for us to click and gel, and we are right there the entire time, and it finally happened. Now I don't know if it's by hook or by crook. Is it Thomas Frank? Is it us having less of the ball, catching team out in the counter for that last goal? I don't know what the best method is going forward, but I know Ange at least has now, okay, these players in this instance can do this. When we have less than 50% of the ball, look at how we press, look at how we, and this is the thing about Solanke as well that I wanted to touch on, that the things we always say good about Richarlison are all the things that Solanke excels at, which is press, physicality. Now, he is a little bit weaker in the box than I thought he would be when we bought him, but admittedly, he does take a lot of contact. And in this system, that's why we see Sonny sometimes start to disappear in matches when he was in that 9, because you get 2 hefty center backs just clog that space. He's got nothing to do. But at least Solanke's got a big enough frame. He can kind of give himself room just by being there. And I think that presence in the box is automatically making Son and Brendan better, because they have a legitimate option right there, or they can take it on themselves. I think you saw that from Brendan Johnson. It was more of a, and I don't know, maybe we as fans should collectively continue to apply pressure, not abuse, pressure to the players, because look what you can get out of them when they have a little bit of heat on their back, so to speak, when they can feel the opposition breathing down their neck, so to speak. Like, light a fire up under them. That's what I like, because that's how you make the best food. You got to cook it. And Brendan Johnson could. Now, again, this is the biggest point. We have to continue to do it. And another thing we must continue to do is bring on Mikey Moore instead of Timo Werner. Now, again, Timo Werner, not my scapegoat, but Mikey Moore, when he came onto the pitch, when I tell you the amount of joy I felt inside, I don't know how to explain it. It was effervescent. It was exuding off of me. My dog could smell it, and it wasn't sweat. It was like, he's actually out there. Just give him the ball. Let's see him. It's just a level of excitement I haven't felt a lot this season, because part of what I've been looking forward to is that pathway from the academy to the first team. As a overseas fan, as a man who worked for FC Dallas and saw just how crucial a homegrown academy is to a first team and to the league and to U.S. men's national team, like, I put a lot of stock in the academy. That's where Harry Kane came from, the best striker I've ever seen with my eyes. So for me, this is a good sign. I never thought it would be a instant, let's just get the kids in there, because then you're putting your job on the line. But, I would like to see Will Lancashire start to come around town. If Richarlison, sounds like we're not going to get any looks at him. I got a lot of hope going forward. Now, again, that hope continues. You put on a result at Old Trafford. We ain't getting a win there, and I don't know how long. Last year we drew. Not good enough. Get the full 3 points, take advantage of them, and then I think we can really, let the train just keep rolling.
Richie's back running.
Keep that train rolling, because we made up 2 points on Man City and Arsenal yesterday. So let's see what happens.
The title's still on.
I want to move on. I want to talk about James Maddison, because obviously an unbelievable performance from him on Saturday. Got his goal, which was a lovely dink over the keeper. And I feel like some of his performances have gone under the radar this season because the results haven't come our way. Obviously, a very disappointing season after he came back from injury. Couldn't get back to his best. But I feel like he is getting back there now. Obviously, a brilliant performance on Saturday. But you mentioned before, I think it was you, Johnny. I can't remember who it was that mentioned that James Maddison needs that space. But you look at that game yesterday, I don't think he did need that space, because a lot of the times he was creating that space for himself, where he had 2 or 3 men around him and he was just wriggling out of those situations and just charging us on the attack. And I feel like James Maddison works really well within those tight spaces, and he works well when he has space as well. So do you feel, Johnny, that he is getting back to his best now?
Well, look, you know who I know in football, and they said to me when we signed Madison, because of Ange's system, that they worried that he wouldn't have as much space as he likes to work in, because it's so inverted, and it's compact. When he played for Leicester, he would be tucked in at the front behind Vardy, and those little slip balls in for Vardy was where Vardy got so many of his goals. Maddison with his free kicks, and playing just tucked in behind this front. We don't really see him take up that position as much under Ange. We see him more as a deep liar. Now, I like him playing with Bentancur personally, because Bentancur for me is the guy who's great in the transitions. A fit Bentancur and a form Bentancur, pick up the ball from Romero, switch it and deliver the ball to Madison. I'd like to see Madison just a little bit further forward, where he's affecting that front third every time, slipping in the likes of, whether it be Johnson or Solanke or whoever it is, Son on that left-hand side. I think we can see more from him. Yesterday's game was the best game. I think you're right. I said since he's been injured, I think that's his best game. I would agree with you in a Spurs shirt. We need to see him take it up. But as Jacob said as well, sometimes, he tries to do too much. I'd like to see him, but when did we last score a free kick? Anyone know? Let me know.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that. It's just like, it feels like forever. Was the last free kick we scored the Harry Kane's just before he left? Was that the last one we scored?
I don't know.
I think it was a deflection, so I don't think it technically counted.
That was Harry Kane's 800 free kick.
I don't think we scored a single free kick, did we, last year?
So it must have been that one then.
Yeah, it must have been that one. Yeah.
Why doesn't Sonny take free kicks? I see you in the Korea kid. I know you see him banging Korean free kicks all the time.
I know he does. He's
got it in the bag. And
Listen,
every free kick, it's like Madison, Poro, and Basuma are all fighting for it, and Son's playing peacemaker. I would prefer Son to say, "This is mine. Back away. Now watch them. Now watch me work."
I grew up a Spurs fan, and I've seen some of the greats play for Spurs. And when we get that free kick, the excitement when they put the ball down, is he going left? Is he going right? And now all I think is, are we going Rosette? Or are we going backwards? Right?
Or is it hitting the wall?
There's no, this is why I get really frustrated, because I'm a believer in taking risk. And, Ange, when he first came here, the thing I loved about Ange was this encouragement of taking risks. And, I remember Papa Sarr trying to break the lines with passes and they're getting intercepted. And people going, oh, he's passing. But Ange wants him to do that. He wants him to take risk. And I feel like we take risk everywhere. And then we get to that final third and we start adopting horseshoe football. Drive into the box and try and win a free kick. Maybe win a penalty, but draw the free kick. Then get
wasn't Madison like the most fouled player last season?
Yeah, but come on, Ben. How many times did you look at him last year and thinking, man, stand up, right?
This is one of the.
And sorry, I'm just going to finish here, Jacob, right? I'm just going to say, on Saturday, I keep saying yesterday, I won't snap out of it. On Saturday, on Saturday, I felt like he didn't go down. He rode those tackles. And, I was one stage, I was applauding him and saying to the guy next to me, thank God he's not going down, because James Maddison last season was going down every single tackle. Play the game, play the whistle, try and break the challenge, try and drive on. If you win a free kick, you win a free kick. Stop trying to buy the referee's attention, diving. Don't want to see it. Leave that to Arsenal. Sorry, Jacob.
100%.
I wanted to piggyback off of that, because largely last season that was one of my main critiques. And Romero, who, as you can see, I've got my Kuti shirt behind me, and anyone who's seen or heard me online knows I ride for my man Kuti Romero, my World Cup, two-time Copa America Winners' Cup winner, Kuti Romero. But when he got dunked on by Gabriel, his first instinct was to turn around for a referee to help him. I hate that. As a goalkeeper, I played goalkeeper for over 20 years, not at any high level, obviously, like, school and stuff, and then rec league, etc. But my number one thing that I never liked was my defenders, anyone on my team, when they would look at the ref for help. They're not a lifeguard. They're not here to make sure you don't drown. They're just watching you play the game. So play the damn game. And if they let it go, guess what? Now you can push the envelope 2-3 inches on this direction, because they're not going to call that. And then it's almost like that dog mentality. And I don't like weak mentality. And in that moment, after he got pushed and then dunked on, he looked for a ref to save him. And I did not like that. And I thought, this is hopefully not indicative of a bigger problem within the locker room, where these players are looking for help, because Madison last year did a lot of that. And that was a large part of my critique on him. That's the reason why I can't stand that Bruno Fernandes guy that plays for old Red Devils. Because you get touched, you fall, and they're falling down like, help me. Don't do that. This ain't Superman. It's not a damn comic book. Get up and play the game. Take the contact or don't. It's just, either be I hate to be so arbitrary like this, but either be a man in the moment or you don't. You fold. And to me, Madison showed he's going to pirouette on the ball, ballerina, dance on it, take the contact, fall down, and get up and take the free kick. Or be upset that he didn't get the call while he's tracking back. Like, it was a less of a getting up and a wham, and he would get up and get on with it. And that's kind of the thing. You fall down, scrape your knee, you're going to sit there and cry about it, or you're going to go fix it, And I thought Madison did a good job of that. We need more of that from everybody.
So I was
Just
going to
less
say,
excuses, more action.
Ben Simeon, you would know this. I can't remember the numbers, but you've probably got them there somewhere. Last season was obviously his worst season in the Premier League for any club. What was his next worst? Do you know his next worst
What
stats?
in terms of goal contributions?
Goals, yeah, goals and assist contributions. Sorry, I just because he scored 4 goals last season.
Last season, it wasn't his worst in the Premier League, but his worst was for Leicester in 1920. 9 goal contributions in 31
Yeah,
games.
but how many goals did he score?
8.
Right, so half the amount.
Sorry,
he scored.
6 goals. Sorry,
6 goals, 3
6
assists.
goals, yeah.
Last year was 4 goals, 9 assists. In
And-
terms
and-
of goal scoring, it was his worst performance in the Premier League.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah.
What do you reckon, Johnny, about his relationship with Dejan Kulusevski, with this kind of new, like, 2 attacking number 8s, essentially, is what we're calling it. Are you enjoying watching that at the moment?
So when when Ange came to the club, I said 2 things. You can't play Kulu out in the right wing. He's not a winger. Okay, he's told you himself he plays his best game. So I was crying out, he's got to go inside. Okay, and in fairness to Ange gave him the opportunity, and with opportunities you have to grab them with both hands. And I don't think that Kulu grabbed them with both hands. He didn't show the skill set and the intelligence and football IQ that's needed to play that position. And but I have been crying out for him to play that position. He says that's his position, and I think Kulu's had his best. Although he might not be banging in hundreds of goals every week, I think we're seeing the best start he's had to a season for Spurs. His work ethic is superb. He just runs and runs and runs, and I think he's been a great asset in the middle of the park. I was getting totally frustrated with him, as probably we all do, or did, playing out on that right-hand side. Cross the bloody ball. Stop checking back onto your weak foot, onto your strong foot. Now I feel like he can run at them, run at players. Still, the last thing I would say about him is that last touch. I just, a little bit of calmness and discipline with the final touch inside the box, and I think he can be a massive influence on this team. But I think he's had a very good start to the season, and I personally thought whilst Madison was man of the match, I thought Bentancur was absolutely outstanding on Saturday, and I see so many plaudits for Madison and obviously Brennan Johnson for scoring the goal. It's almost like the Bentancur performance was sort of swept under the carpet somewhat, but
it was like an enabling performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought.
But that's what they always say about Rodri, right? And RIP to his ACL. But for Rodri, it was always like, well, you barely even knew he was out there when the dropping the deep lying defender, the anchor man in your midfield, when they are having a stellar performance. To me, it is always going to be unnoticed. When they're having a poor, average, mediocre performance, that's when you start noticing them. You're like, okay, he did do his job there. He did, and I thought it was such a good job from Bentancur that he did. It just, you forget he was out there because he was cleaning it up so well. But I think your initial question was about Kulusevski, and for me, the only game in which I've questioned his ability this season specifically was when he was started in the false 9, and then it was like he kind of drifted in the weird spaces and he was kind of not really there. And then we changed it up at halftime, I think, and someone else came on, and then I think Son moved into the 9 when we were missing Solanke. But Kulusevski, for me, when he's been in that midfield, I feel like he's made his point. Like, you can't drop me. This midfield needs me. The work rate, like you said, getting forward, getting back, whether it be in transition and build up, he's always there. Whether we're pressing, he's there. It's just, he's always there. You look up, there he is running around. And sometimes, versus Coventry, it was a little bit like, where you going? You're just kind of running around. But he came on and he created that goal. I mean, it was Madison to Kulu, then to Jed Spence. But again, the game was flat, he comes on and he brought something to it. Now, he's not going to be that guy that comes in and you're like, oh, wow, look at Ronaldinho go, or, oh, wow, look at this real tank in the midfield. He's just there and he's going to do a lot of things really well or good, and a couple things not so good. It's kind of almost in the positive to medium ground of like a performance. Something we've always said about Ben Davies is like, he'll give you a solid 6. He's not going to give you a 7, but he'll go out there and he'll give you a solid 6, maybe a 6.5. And it's like that with Kulu so far this year, where last year I wanted to see him when Madison got dropped. Let's see what he could do in the middle of the park there. And he had one good game, then he got bodied for 3 games. Then he went to another position. It was like, okay, clearly that didn't work. But where he's at now, I think as a player, strength on the ball, ability with the ball at his feet. When there's space to his right, to his left, and there's 2 men on him, he'll kick the ball into that space and maintain the possession. Like, there's so many times he's so strong with the ball that is something we direly need in the midfield, is someone who can take the contact, dribble between a man, and then find the forward pass. And Kulu does that so many times very, very well. And I think that this midfield 3 with an on-form fit Bentancur while he's not suspended, this has to be our midfield, in my opinion, because I love Basuma. That 3rd goal doesn't happen without Basuma, but Basuma's shown moments where he's clicked on for 80%, then turned off for 5%, and then back on the next 10%. So, I felt like Bentancur in that position that he ran, he was flawless. When that position is flawless, you don't even know that they're out there half the time.
You know what it is with Kulusevski though. Like, I think he's been our most consistent performer from the start of the season till now. I think he's been brilliant this season, but I do think he still has that extra to give in terms of those consistent goal contributions. He's got the quality to do it, and I agree with you, Johnny. He kind of does all the fundamentals right, but then when he gets there, sometimes the final pass is a bit lacking. And I feel like we're just waiting for Kulusevski to really explode this season, to really provide us with those consistent goals and assists, and I feel like it's coming. I feel it.
I feel like as well, having him and Madison together, it means that teams can't give extra focus to either one of them because we've got that dual threat in the middle, that creative threat. I feel like last season, a lot of the time when it was Madison next to Sarr with either Basuma or Bentancur, you could just kind of double up on Madison and bam, our creativity is gone in the middle. And they're not really worried about Sarr playing a killer pass or anything like that. But now you've got Madison and Decky together. I think it makes a big difference, and it gives teams even more things to think about. And I think that's exactly what Ange wants. He wants that dual threat. He wants as many people in that final third as possible who are able to make a difference. And I think having Decky and Madison there is making that difference. And in terms of Madison on Saturday, for me, definitely his best performance in the Tottenham shirt. I don't think I've seen him I think he did so many dribbles in tight spaces on Saturday. Given how Brentford was set up, I think that was a real big key talking point as to why we won the game. Exactly. And especially because Brentford played that man-to-man marking. That's basically 7 times we were able to get open up Brentford, because he was able to drill past his man on several successful occasions, and that was massive. And I thought his pressing was incredible. The amount of times he won the ball in the final third. I think obviously he won it for the first goal, he won it for the second goal as well, and played it quickly to Sonny. Obviously he scored the 3rd goal, but he created countless opportunities for his own pressing, which is an underrated thing, I think, which he doesn't get as much credit for. His ability to be aggressive in those situations, which I thought he was absolutely brilliant. So I think this season he's played pretty consistently well, in my opinion. I don't think he's had a terrible game, and maybe the Arsenal game was his worst one, but I don't think he's had a bad game so far this season. And I think this was the best of the lot, and hopefully it's a sign of him really reaching those heights that we know he can reach and getting back to his best, because when he's in that kind of form he's in yesterday, he's one of the best players in the league. That's the reality.
Do you agree with that, Jacob? Because Maddison came out after the game in his interview with Spurs and said, he feels from a personal point of view that he's been playing well all season, and there's been a bit of a narrative, if you follow social media and a few of the channels, saying Maddison has been poor this season. In my opinion, I think he's had a fairly good season from a personal point of view. Obviously, it was topped off by that Brentford game, but how do you feel about his form coming into the game? Do you feel like he has been good all season?
No, actually, I haven't. I've felt like he's needed to do more. And there's one thing to statistically do well, and and bring an aspect to the match. But when you are a co-captain, I hold you to a certain standard. Now everyone can have a different standard that they hold players to, and I'm perfectly comfortable, and managers alike. Like, I never have a problem when people say, oh, Ange out, this, that. It's all good. Everyone has their opinion. My opinion of James Maddison has been, he's not doing enough for me. He's not being good enough. And I, before this match, said I need to see more of this. I want to see him do well, perform well, and he has to a degree. Like, there's a level that he's performed to, and there's no escaping that. But it's like with Son. Has Son been good? Yeah, he's been good, but I think he can be better. I hold him to a higher standard. He's the best player in this team. I need him banging goals left and right. GA, and that's what he did for me versus Brentford. And I need it again. Same thing with James Maddison. Not that I hold him to the highest echelon, like a Son, Kane-esque, but the same standard I would hold a Ericsson to, if you will. I want you to hit those same levels because you show that you can. Now keep doing it. It's like the car goes fast every once in a while. Every 10 weeks, the car will go fast. No, I need the car going fast every time I start the engine. And if he can give us that, I don't know. Leicester fans have always warned us that he's going to give you 10 good games, 15 bad, 10 good, 15 bad. And it's up to him to break that.
And the rest out with injury.
Yeah, and then the rest is with injury. And to be fair, I make this joke, and it's more of a joke because I like to banter about it. But last year, he sold me a dream. He sold me Matacoin, the best crypto. I thought we were to the moon. We were booming. And slowly every week I'm taking more and more out of my bank. And I say, my wife, let's get all the life savings out and invest in Matacoin. He's better than Odegaard. He's better than Bruno Fernandes. He's better than all these people. I kept going on everywhere, banging the Madison drum because I was like, wow, for 10 games. And then when he got injured, it was like, oh, my account got deleted. Oh, let me get back in. Why did my account get deleted? I lost all my Matacoin. And then they're like, oh, well, when it comes back from injury, you'll have your account back. Beautiful. Comes back from injury. I'm like, well, where's my balance? It's 7 to 14 business days. Your balance will be back. It's like, okay. Well, okay, it's been 7 to 14 days. No, another 7 to 14 days. There's a window there. It's a gray area. So it's like waiting and waiting and waiting. Eventually, I lost hope. I don't think I'm getting my Matacoin back. But I'll tell you what I saw yesterday versus 2 days ago versus Brentford, I feel like, hey, maybe my bank balance will come back soon on my Matacoin. I don't know. But again, it's up to him to continue to do this, to show me that was worth the losses that I took. Because right now, I guess I'm a lover scorned. But yeah, I'll quickly fall back in love, James. And he opened the door again and said, I'm still here. He's outside with the boombox. Now it's just up to us to see where we can go from there.
Yeah, Jacob, I think we all kind of was investing in heavy crypto after the first 10 games of the season. Madacoin, Bissouma coin, all these kind of coins. Bissouma's better than Rice and Madison's better than Odegaard and all this kind of stuff. But
it was fun, though. It was fun.
It was fun. But it's a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Next topic that we're going to speak about is back on the game against Brentford. The question is, do you feel like that was our best performance under Ange Postecoglou? I'm actually going to go to Sim first on this one because this is his question, so I want to know what he thinks about this.
It was supposed to be the first topic, but we'll do it now. But yeah, is this the best performance under Ange? I think it's definitely up there. I think when you even look back to the first 10 games of last season, I think the level of chances we created in this one compared to those games, I reckon, was probably even higher. I think the quality of chances was probably even better. I think the pressing of this game was probably better than we've seen. I think this was Madison's best performance that we've seen him. I think Udogie was astounding. Obviously, Son created 7 big chances, which is, I think, the most that any player's created in a game for a long time, especially this season. So I do think it's right up there. I'm looking back to last season, and the only one that sticks out in my mind is when we beat Newcastle 4-1 at home in about December time, and that was a real dominant display, and we were 4-0 up and we conceded a late goal late on, but we absolutely dominated them. We battered them on that day, and Brennan Johnson was at his best as well, and Son scored a goal, and he scored a late penalty, I think, but he was brilliant. He rinsed Trippier twice, didn't he? So I think that maybe that one, but I think this is definitely right up there with one of our best performances under Ange.
You've also got the Villa away performance last season, which is brilliant. You've also got the Burnley away at the start of last season as well, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. We were there. Look, I don't think it's our best performance under Ange. I do think those 3 performances are actually better. Is there any other performances that come to mind?
I reckon if you look at our XG, this might be the highest. Like in terms of the quality of chances we were creating. Like we created so many openings in this one, and it might have been even more than some of the other ones. But maybe our finishing wasn't as good on this occasion as it was on those occasions. Obviously, the Villa game was 0-0 at half time, and then we routed them in the second half. Go on, Jacob.
I was just gonna ask. We were talking about players' best performances. To me, I felt like that was the best, at least 45 minutes I've seen from Brendan Johnson in a Tottenham shirt. I think Brendan Johnson had his best. Maybe over. I think he disappeared a little bit in moments in the second half, but overall, I can't think of a performance where I was more impressed with Brendan Johnson than versus Brentford. I don't know if that's because it was actually a little bit of a tougher finish that he actually finished this time, whereas most of his goals for me were kind of easier before that. I don't know, but does anyone else think that was the best Brendan Johnson performance, or was there one that I'm forgetting?
Well, I'm concerned
Newcastle,
about,
I reckon. That Newcastle game, he was brilliant, I remember.
Yeah, I don't think it was his best game.
The Villa game, the Villa away, he was brilliant as well.
What I'm concerned about is he does not have 90 minutes in him. He was finished in that game. You quite rightly pointed out, Jacob, that he wasn't so great in the second half. He needed to come off, and obviously he did. He was very, very tired. I just think at 23 years of age, your engine should be superb. I mean, what else have you got to do apart from get up in the morning, get fit, and play football? I don't want to see my players tiring. There were moments. Look, he took that goal superbly. It was a fantastic finish, no doubt about it. But there were 2 incidences in the second half where he broke through, and one of them he actually passed the ball to Flecken in the goal. It wasn't even a shot. So yeah, listen. It's little baby steps on the journey to improving, and I'm not going to knock him. I'm happy for him. 2 goals in 2 games, can't argue with that. For me, as far as performances go, I'm not going to get excited about beating a Brentford side who definitely had a lot of first teamers missing.
Come on, Johnny, get carried away, my friend. Get carried away.
Back, listen, Johnny. We are back.
I'm happy. Listen, I'm happy.
Don't sound it, mate. Come on.
Listen, I'm happy. But I'm going to Man United. I'm driving up to Man U. I just want to see the same on the weekend. I'm not saying I left the stadium delighted, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, I just need to see that against the top team. Ben, and Simeon, you've been churning out the stats of, before this victory of, we haven't beaten a top 10 team since December last year. I'm not making this stuff up, right? So, this is a welcome, very welcome victory for all of us. But we need to start seeing it against Man United, against Brighton, and against the top teams. And, we talk about the best victory. Is the best victory the amount of goals you score, or is it against, dominating or playing well against...
I think just best general performance that we've had under Ange.
You think that was?
No, I don't think that was.
No,
I think probably the Newcastle game is probably the best.
Well, statistically, it was the biggest gap between of XG we've had in any game.
What was the gap between Newcastle and Tottenham in the 4-0?
Newcastle had
beating Villa 4-0 was kind of nice.
4-0 away at Villa Park. I mean,
we
can't.
That was pretty impressive.
Against Newcastle, we won when we won 4-1. It was XG was 3.8 and the XG against was 1.7. And this one, our XG was 3.5 and against was 0.7. So it was a bigger gap.
Yeah, listen. The only thing I would say was there was no Vissa. Their striker that they bought to replace Tony was injured. So look, they still had 6 shots on target. All I'm saying is we're all delighted they won. But we need to start seeing Spurs performing against the top 10 or the top 6. That's where we're measured. And
Brentford were top 10 before we beat them, by the way.
Yeah, they had a good start to the season.
And look, we can all talk here about performances and XG and XG that, XA and all these kind of stats. But the reality was this game wasn't put to bed until James Maddison scored within the last.
Thank you very much.
the last
the
10 minutes,
88th
right?
minute. That's
This game
what-
against Villa, this game against Newcastle, these games were put to bed fairly early, and we knew we were winning the game 100%. So for me, I much prefer that than seeing these games against Brentford.
I mean, you see
I
the
agree.
people behind me in the 80th minute, they were shouting, they were getting twitchy. You know, Brentford had a couple of chances. You know, let's not, take our head out the sand here and look at the reality. We didn't have as much possession. They had more possession than us. They only had 4 chances less than us on target. And bar 2 fantastic saves from Vicario, it could have been a different story. But we won. All I'm saying is, one swallow don't make a summer. We're going on to the Man United game. If we can perform like that against Man United, I'll come back and I'll say to you, fantastic. We are on the march. We have our Tottenham back. This is progression. Look, all we're saying is, right, we talk about a rebuild, and rebuilds take time. So with rebuilds, you see slow progression. What we've seen is an electric, Usain Bolt start, but we've seen regression. Since the Chelsea game, we have seen regression. I don't believe we've seen progression. So if this is the first green shoot of that progression, I welcome it with open arms. And I hope this is the start of a beautiful future with Ange Postecoglou, right? But, we're early days. The trouble is with his fan base, it's very difficult to be critical of a performance or an individual without them saying you hate this individual or you want Ange out. I don't want Ange out. Whilst I might criticise him often, I want him to succeed, because do we really want to go back to the beginning again and then have a manager come in and start saying, well, these aren't my players. These aren't the players I want. And then we're back to square one. We don't want that. We should all hope, even if we're not a believer in Ange right now, that he can somehow turn this round and make us winners. Personally, I don't care about the league position this season. If we can go on and we can win a trophy, hopefully the Europa League, that puts us in the Champions League, and we can put together all the memes that we see out there about us not winning anything and an empty trophy cabinet. I just want to see success.
So Johnny, you taking 15th and a League Cup?
No, I said Europa League.
Oh, Europa League success.
Yeah. I'll take
15th in Europa League.
I'd take 15th in Europa League, yeah? Although it would be painful. Don't get me wrong. Listen, no one
And
really
it'll probably
wants
lead
that.
to a change of manager, I would
Come
assume.
on, Ben.
No, armpits. All I care about is armpits.
There's no way if we're 15th that
And survives.
Daniel is going to allow.
But we get Champions League football. Isn't that what Daniel wants?
He'll be on that phone. Hello, Thomas.
He won't see the final for 15th. I guarantee you, he won't see the final.
No, not a chance. He'll sack
No,
him.
yeah, that's a good point. It's fun and hypothetical, but in reality, in practice,
Hello, Thomas. Get your Tuchel down here.
Yeah.
He'll be the next one.
No, because he'll bring Dyer back. I don't want Thomas Tuchel.
Dyer's on a
this is
free.
what Antonio
Dyer's on a
Conte
Bosman
told
at the
us.
end of the season, isn't he?
Listen, it's all good. It's all good. Listen, I just feel like I'm a bit affected from that. I think I still had a hangover from that 87 minutes, Ben and Simeon, of that Coventry game. It was so hard to watch. I mean, I felt embarrassed. I don't know about you guys. I came out of the stadium and I was talking to the Coventry fans walking along there, and I was putting my arm around them. I said, "Look, I'm really sorry. You got robbed by Man United. I'm not sure what was the bigger robbery, us or Man U. I think Man U, probably, they said, but."
No,
I felt sorry for
It's
them.
not a robbery, if they left all their possessions out in a public square and I happened to come along and take them. That's not robbery.
Yeah, listen.
They had their chances. They
We
didn't
got
finish.
out of
That's
jail.
their fault. No robbery, no luck. We beat them. They can
That
hold
was
that.
their B
They can hold
team.
it 2 years in a row. I don't give a damn.
Jacob, that was their B team, mate. That was their B team. We couldn't find
My
a
B
shot
team can hold it
60th
as well. I don't care who it is. They all wearing the same badge. They can all hold it.
I thought we
Exactly.
were.
For them.
Listen, Jacob.
Enjoy yourself. Out of here.
After 40 minutes, I had to ask the guy next to me, sorry, are we playing Manchester City or are we playing Coventry? Because we can't get
The amount of
ball.
chances we had were like 0 at that point. No, and I agree. I was about, like I said at the beginning of the show, 75, 77 minutes in, I was like, guess my next stream, I'm just going to paint my face like a clown and say I was wrong and I'm an idiot for believing in Ange. But you know what? All's well that ends well. And I'm going to say never in doubt. Ange knew better than me, even though it was a Timo Werner injury that led to Kulusevski coming on. We don't have to draw on that fact. We can just bypass that and say Ange knew best, and I will take that.
We got a couple of super chats to get through. Giorgio says we still need one creative midfielder to push Madison. Do you agree with that? Oh, we got Lucas Bergvall as well.
Bergvall.
Do you still think we need one more on top of that?
If we're going to be playing 2 now, then maybe. But
where does that leave players like Pape Matar within this squad if we are using?
Leaves them having to be better. That's where it leaves them. Either you be better or you're not going to play.
Listen, look,
and he hasn't been great.
No, listen, Lucas Bergvall is a fantastic talent. His peripheral vision is incredible. He's already, I watched him, I know it's QPR, pre-season at QPR. I was in the front row, which I hate doing because you can't see the play, but what you can see up front, so close, was he's already scanned the field. He knows when that ball's coming, he knows exactly where he's playing that pass. And there aren't many players like him. He's got a left foot, he's got a right foot, he's got great upper body strength, he's got great vision. And I'm really, really, really hopeful that this guy is going to be a serious player for Spurs. Whether or not he'll get minutes under Ange is questionable because, he's not even trusting him in games. But we know one thing, James Maddison always gets injured. And we need a backup. We got rid of Gio. Okay, fair enough. But we need someone that can come in and influence the game. I see we got with Angel Gomez, but I listen. I think we do. I think we need a backup goalkeeper. I can't see the tree in goal.
We're going to get on to the goalkeeper. Don't you worry about that, Johnny. That is the last topic of the day.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Another super chat here from DJ Samble, member for 27 months, says, "Come on, you Spurs." And the last super chat here says Bentancur had a good game with good interceptions, which brings us on to the last topic on our goalkeeper Vicario. It was obviously highly publicised about the move in the summer, how we were going for David Raya. David Raya was a bit too expensive for us, the 40 million. We did settle for Vicario, and if you were led to believe certain rumours, apparently Vicario was the guy that we were going for all along, which, I don't buy. But in this game, in isolation, you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly with Vicario. You saw some brilliant saves in there, one really clawing the ball out of the back of the net. But then you saw him, get the ball stuck under his feet and nearly give away a goal. And then you saw that absolutely mental moment where he's handballing it outside the area. Then he takes another swipe at it and handballs it out the area. So I don't know what to make out of Vicario. I mean, I love him as a personality. I love him as a character. But there are some key flaws in his game in terms of his strength within that 6-yard box. Can he come for those crosses on a consistent basis? And I know we've seen improvements maybe a little bit from last season. But where are you at with it with Jacob? Are you a big fan of Vicario? Do you think for the long term he can be our Alisson, our David Raya, our Edison? Is he good enough?
I believe he has really great qualities, and he also has really bad setbacks in certain areas. Now, I think he's 26, 27 years old, right? If I'm not mistaken. And you're that old and you have a reluctancy to catch the ball even when you're shielded by 2 players. To me, that's almost one of them things. He's just going to be like that, the mistakes at the feet as well. That is something you can coach and you can get better. But again, like with Hugo Lloris, David De Gea, fantastic shot stoppers. Every camera shot that they have of their stops looks world class. But then you put the ball at their feet, that team presses a little high up with the second and third tier of the press. Look, they're going to start making mistakes. Now, I think it's just a matter of he's got to be smarter. I think he shows that he's a little worried, and he wears his emotions on his face and on his body. Like when he has a save after we do a poor giveaway, he's very animated. And people, either like that or they don't like that. And quite frankly, I am concerned with the lack of ability to command a box. Again, you watch City versus Arsenal. Every cross in the box, David Raya was catching. Every corner that was even 3 yards past the 6-yard box, he was still going out there and claiming. There's a reason he's a very highly touted goalkeeper, David Raya. But you mentioned, if you didn't believe it or not, that Vicario was our first choice. I would also say this: the same people who said that Vicario was not our same choice, those ITKs, also told me we desire a Brecciezzi. And where is he? He's still playing for Crystal Palace. So, these ITKs, I think the last 2 summers been taking a lot of punches lately. And I'm just going to take it even more with a grain of salt. More grains of salt for every story, because, until they're holding the shirt, this is what all the old heads told me. Jacob, don't get hyped until they're holding the shirt and it says that they signed for Tottenham. And, I'm learning that. But I don't pay too much into the ITKs. What I do know is I agree with Johnny. Backup goalkeeper, I cannot see Fraser Forster. If we would have gone out in the cup, God forbid, to penalties, it's Ange's fault, because it's Fraser Forster. And he chose Fraser Forster to be over Brandon Austin. And again, Brandon Austin, Alfie Whiteman, whether they can do what Forster can do or not is not the point to me, because the club has kept those players around for a reason, either to fill a quota or because they see something in them. And then I think at that point, if I was Ange, I would think the smart thing to do is say, well, this is your guy. You've kept him around for so long. I'm going to give him a shot, and see what he could do. But, I'm concerned long-term. For right now, I think he's good enough for what we're trying to do. I think he just has to be smarter with the ball at his feet. As a goalkeeper, I never liked the ball at my feet personally. I always said, you pass it to me, I don't know where it's going after that. And that's kind of the old school keeper. We weren't the extra passing option. We were just the guy who's generally a little bit bigger than the other guys. And to me, Vicario kind of plays like he's scared, and I'm worried about that. I think he's a fantastic shot stopper, though, and he put that on display. He made mistakes, and he took care of business when it mattered most. And to me, all's well that ends well. But with his feet, he could have assisted a goal or two versus Brentford. So he's got to be better. He's definitely worrying, but it's not throw the baby out yet. Just the bath water for now.
Well, he has been added into the leadership group, so I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. But in terms of him playing out from the back, I actually thought we saw some good signs from Vicario, apart from that moment playing out the back where he was dinking the ball into Bentancur, dinking the ball out to Pedro Porro with quite some risky passes as well, and he was getting them spot on. So I think you've got to give him credit for that.
That's the key, though, is that medium short play pass. It's that direct 5-6 yards, 8-10 yards. That's where I think he has more time than he thinks he has. And that's why he made that mistake. Now, I could be conflating that issue with what I saw Fraser Forster do 4 times versus Coventry. Maybe that's a little bit what's happening here. But again, I think that as a goalkeeper, if you can pass, you have to do those dinks over the top, that medium to long range passing. Even his long range isn't really that bad. If you think about it, it's the short passing inside his own box that he looks very nervous, and I think we all are too.
You remember against Bayern in pre-season, he gave 2 goals away, didn't he? Doing something very similar. In both games, and then he very nearly did it on the weekend. So I think you might have a good point there. I think when he's got time and space to clip a pass, he's actually okay. But I think when you're comparing him to some of the best keepers in the league on the ball, Alisson, Edison, Raya, Onana, I think he's kind of a level below them on the ball. I don't think he looks like, I think they look like outfield players when they're on the ball. He still kind of looks like a goalkeeper on the ball, if you know what I mean. Even though obviously he is one. But
I do know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. He still doesn't look totally comfortable like the other players who they look like they're just outfield players clipping a pass over. So I think he's got a bit of work on to do. And then obviously from set pieces, I think he has improved, but he still flaps it way too many. There was one moment as well on the weekend where the ball comes in and he could have easily, I think it was from a long throw, and he could have easily caught it, and he decided to just punch it out for a corner instead. And that, like, there was 2
players shielding him in that moment too.
Yeah. And he still decides to punch it. He still didn't feel confident enough to catch it. That's something
alarming.
A bit of a concern.
Build your upper body strength, right? Command your area. Peter Schmeichel pile through players, right? Be brave. Build your upper body strength. Build up your arm strength. And when the ball comes, win the ball. Just pile through players. Punch through players. Punch players' heads. Right? If you go down, the referee is going to blow the whistle when you're coming through players and you're beating. When you're standing there and going, look at me, look, they're fouling me. I'm not interested. Look, Arsenal yesterday, I felt they fouled Raya twice. Edison twice, because what they did, they ran into him. They didn't stand there and block him. They did a different tactics where two players simultaneously ran into Edison to block him off. Right? They did it the first time when Gabriel went just slightly wide, and they did it again for the goal. I personally don't like that, but for me, we signed him because we needed a goalkeeper that could play with his feet. We all know how great Hugo Lloris was with his feet. The ball came back, your hands went over your eyes thinking, oh my God, right? So we signed him because he was good with his feet. Unfortunately, I've mentioned the word peripheral vision again. I will say the same with Vicario. It's not great. Whereas Bergvall has great peripheral vision, I don't think Vicario's is great. These close encounters when the ball's there, he doesn't seem to be so aware of players approaching, and then he gets himself into these situations. And the same goes having your peripheral vision when there's a set piece or a free kick. It's coming out, being aware of players around you. There was a game, I'm just trying to think what away game it was last season, where we were on a corner and he was screaming, he was grabbing hold of Porro, and he was physically grabbed hold of him from behind, and he put three players into position where he thought they should be. Now, Hank, come on, guys. You should know where you should be. He should be focusing, in my opinion, on the ball, not focusing on his defenders, telling them where they should be standing. They should know that automatically. As a shot stopper, absolutely superb. A guy with his feet, he needs to improve. But the one thing is, with the way we play with a high line, and the way a lot of teams play with a high line, more and more goalkeepers are getting injured. Could you imagine a scenario where we are actually playing the tree in goal? Okay, I don't want to be in a situation where he's still falling over, right, when they're in the halfway line celebrating the goal, okay? Because that's how bad he is. You saw against Coventry, his first pass out, he passed to a Coventry player. They nearly scored in the first minute. He dropped the ball 3 times.
Johnny, I'd rather see Luca Gunter in goal than bloody Fraser Forster.
Listen, you were with me. You were with us when we saw the Spurs-Arsenal game at Boreham Wood. And if it wasn't for Lucas Gunter, it could have been about 5-0 in the first half. He was unbelievable. Yeah. Save after save after save. I don't know whether it's his age, but, surely the other backup keepers are better than Foster. I mean, I was at
we don't have a lack of them, do we?
Pardon?
We don't have a lack of them. We've got 4 in the Europa League squad alone.
We collect goalkeepers. Whereas Arsenal, look, I remember when Arsenal had Leno in goal, and Malpai came in and took him out, and I'm thinking, great, that's Arsenal's season's done. And in comes this guy, I've never seen him play, Martinez. Better than Leno, right? Then when he got Martinez's problem, they bring in Ramsdale, right? I'm thinking, my God, how many keepers are they going to have? He's gone and wins the World Cup. They've got Ramsdale. No, Ramsdale had a great season. No, not good enough. We buy Raya, and then they buy Turner. You look at Liverpool. They
got Neto now as well, who was a brilliant keeper last year for Bournemouth.
Who's a brilliant keeper. And I look at Liverpool. I wanted us to sign when we were looking for a keeper. I said, why don't we buy the Liverpool backup keeper? I thought he was fantastic. He's come in for Alisson. He's been superb. He's always there when called upon. And then I look at us, right? It's always like, don't think about it because we're not going to be in a situation where the keeper gets injured. If he gets injured, God help us. That's all
we
I
are screwed.
Say. We must buy one.
Me and Sim were in the H Club, as you know, Johnny, on the weekend.
Really?
And,
I never knew, Brian. I never knew the Instagram furore. Yeah.
And
you leaving mouthpiece is you.
we bumped into Pat Jennings and we asked him about Vicario, and he said, great shot stopper, but he needs to cut out all the other crap in his game, and that's literally bang on the money, isn't it? I
got to tell you one story. When I was a kid, I saw Pat Jennings I can't remember. I was really, really young, and I couldn't quite understand it. I think it's a Wolves player. I think it was Kenny Hibbett or something. He hit a ball, and Pat Jennings, no exaggeration, he put one hand out and caught the ball with one hand. I've never seen anything like it.
Johnny, I was actually, I took a look at his hands, and bloody hell, they were massive.
Huge, absolutely huge. There used to be a restaurant called Sweet Cherry in Cockfosters, and I used to go in there, and I used to beg to go and get a takeaway so I could see Pat Jennings. He always had a moment for us. And look, there's a player who started with Spurs, went to Arsenal, came back to the club, and was still a legend, right? And he's still a legend today. He's the greatest goalkeeper to ever play for this club, and he's a lovely guy, and he knows his stuff.
He still seems upset, actually. Well. Brad Friedel, yeah, absolutely. But Pat Jennings actually still feels well. When we were talking to him about it, he's still upset that Spurs wanted him out at that moment in time.
Yeah, yeah, he should never have gone.
Bringing the conversation back to Vicario, there, I was thinking obviously we point out his flaws, from set pieces and sometimes playing on the back and stuff. But when we're talking about a shot stopper, like someone who's obviously made some brilliant saves on the weekend, but I'm just trying to think how many times has he, the goals we've conceded, and we've conceded a lot of them in the past year. I can't remember too many where I can really point to him from a shot-stopping point of view, thinking he could have done
not
better,
a shot-stopping point of view.
He's fumbled one or anything. He's very good handling as well.
Very good.
Even Raya, he had a couple of howlers.
No, I think from that aspect, Vicario is actually one of the best in the league.
Yeah, I think you look even the top keeper. How many howlers did Onana have last season? Not just playing like that, handling shots at him where he's just let it through him or fumbled it. Even Pope on the weekend, had a bad one. I never see Vicario do that. No,
Vicario in that aspect is one of the best in the league. But as we've seen, players just put pressure on him from set pieces, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, but look at the context of yesterday. They're putting pressure on Edison, one of the best keepers in the league, and it worked. In that context, it's not easy when you ask one of the best teams doing that.
Part of that pressure being applied is up to the coaching staff. And now I don't want to sound like a broken record, but Ryan Mason is the mole, okay? And everywhere I go, I'll tell it. Ryan Mason is the mole. How does this man survive 17 different, cruise liners going to the bottom of the ocean, and every time he's still just a part of the next boat that goes out? It doesn't make sense.
He's our next manager.
And when you look at where he's,
Jacob.
Yeah, I know. And everyone wanted Ange out. They're going to get Ryan Mason, and now who's really suffering everybody. But it's no shock to me that we are inept in the area in which he is in charge of. It just makes sense. Which, again, to me, that does fall on Ange a little bit.
Well, apparently it's Montgomery now, isn't it? It's Montgomery who's...
and the other guy, I keep forgetting his name, with a foreign name.
Jednak?
No. The guys, they came from Hearts. They got the sack.
What I heard is actually, I heard something to the contrary to that, and I heard that Ryan Mason was literally never on set piece duty on the training ground, and I felt like he was getting beaten with a stick out from a rumour.
I think he's on water bottles.
No, I just think that a lot of the Vicario, defensively set piece, that comes down to coaching and the players out there. And also it comes down to Vicario as well. He's got to be the one. Now, Johnny's right. He should not be here moving them like human chess pieces. That is a little absurd. They should be just moving to where they should know one of the two areas that they need to occupy when the ball's not in play versus when it is in play. It's not a hard thing to do. I think it's just lapse in judgment from players. And then Vicario looks, like any goalkeeper you getting contacted on a set piece, it's going to mess with you positionally, aerially, everything. So again, everyone just got to be stronger around.
Can I just ask you a question, guys? Have you actually tried to do it in the garden? Pretend you're the goal, you're defending the goal, stand facing this way where the ball's coming, and get all your friends to stand behind you and all run past you at the same time. See how you get on. Because I think it's genius. Arsenal treat corners, I'm a big NFL fan, like special teams. That's how they treat it. They've taken it to another level. I hate them with a passion, especially after yesterday again. But I have to take my hat off to them with their special teams when it comes to corners and set pieces. I'd like us to see us adopt it because it's hard to, it's hard to defend against. We've seen City, we've seen team after team struggle against it. I think some need to face the way of the ball and others need to face the players that are running towards them to try and combat it. But
it's also defensively as well, because we all talk complaining about Vicario and Edison and all that play about Edison, but Edison failing to come for crosses. But how many times do you see Raya come and claiming a cross like it's easy? He claims them all the time. That must be, I haven't analysed it. I'm assuming he must be well protected from his centre-backs who are just making sure that he's getting that space to come and get the ball. Because you look at the moment, Vicario and Edison, they're not able to come and claim it against Arsenal.
You look at Raya compared to Vicario in that aspect. Raya, just like his physique, just looks so strong. It looks like no one can muscle him out of the way. And Vicario, just like his frame, just looks a lot smaller, and he just looks a lot easier to bully.
Vicario's taller than him.
Taller, fine, but I'm talking about like Ray is a lot more stocky.
I know, I'm saying, and he's taller.
Yeah.
Like, and he should, you should have more reach.
Yeah.
But still, Ray is the one who's coming for a lot of these crosses, and Vicario struggles sometimes.
Yeah. But look, I think that does bring an end to the panel show today. I want to thank both of you guys for coming on today. We've got a super chat actually for both of you from Chang Ching Seung, and he says, support Jacob at United Spurs of America and support Johnny at Tottenham on tour as well. So big up to you. And Jacob, big up for you for coming on. I'm looking forward to seeing the pump up this weekend in the build up to the Manchester United game. And thank you again.
Thursday?
Thursday is, I think, David Harris back in the hot seat.
I see Jacob's being shunted out on Thursday.
Jacob doesn't do midweeks. He's too big for midweeks.
My full-time job, which is changing poopy diapers for these kiddos. So that'll take precedence on the weekdays, but on the weekends, no poopy diaper can stop me from a Tottenham match. I'll tell you that much.
Different kind of pump up on Thursday then for you.
Yeah, for me especially.
So Jacob, do you want to let people know where they can find you and also what's coming up on the channel this week?
Yeah, you can find me over at United Spurs of America. I like to say America's #1 Tottenham Hotspur fan channel. I go live about 5 times a week, live for the watch alongs on the weekends. I don't do watch alongs during the week, as I mentioned, with my kids and such, but pretty much you can catch me live at any point, and then I'll cut up stuff and do uploads. The new EAFC just dropped, and I have like 3 more hours on I had a 10-hour trial because I didn't want to pay the full price for the game. So I got a 10-hour trial, and I've been streaming that. It's been a little fun, but yeah, just we'll be back live probably tomorrow, because I got a couple shows I'm featuring on later today, and then tomorrow I'll be back, and we'll start looking forward to Whataburger or Quarterbag or whatever their name is. Warbag, Azerbaijan.
Carrier
bag. They don't have a carrier bag here in America, and I figured that out. And I was like, why do they keep saying carry a bag? Isn't that what you do when you board a flight? You carry a bag. But it's fun.
It's here you get them in supermarkets. They're carrier bags.
Yeah, I'm going to be streaming live from Tesco's before the game. So you can find me. I'll be holding my carrier bag. Actually, I look, Jacob, like I've been trialing the UFC game. Any good?
I think you got hit.
Good, is it?
The UFC game?
Yeah.
Or the FIFA?
Oh, I thought you said UFC.
Oh, no, they changed it from FIFA to EAFC. It's just
right.
title
Sorry, I
change
thought you said UFC.
Lost the rights to...
Beg your pardon.
The UFC game's fun, though, too. It's always fun fighting. Why not?
Johnny, thank you so much for coming on first time this season as well. Look forward to seeing you more on the channel as the season progresses. But do you want to let the people know where they can find you online?
You can find me on X, Johnny H3232, and Let's Talk Tottenham 1882 on Instagram and TikTok. And you can find me at my birthplace, which is Tottenham on Tour, where Brian Daigle gave birth to me. Drove me mad for 6 months to come on. And I said, no. And he's unleashed the beast in me, and now I can't stop. Thanks very much, guys, for having me on. Always a pleasure to be on the show. And with Jacob as well, we've streamed before together. So thanks very much. And let's hope on Thursday. We're celebrating a convincing win. The great thing about this format is you could lose 3 games and still qualify in this format. So I want to see him take risks. I don't know whether we're going to start with a full strength team. I'd really like to see a mix of first teamers and some kids.
Get Mikey Moore on the starting lineup. That's what I say.
Reportedly, you can
agree.
qualify with 7 points.
7 points, can you?
Yes.
Reportedly, which is a bit ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I don't really like this new format
That's
of
2
European
wins and a
football.
draw in 8 games.
It's nuts.
I mean, obviously that gets into the playoff, not the top 8, but still.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about your YouTube daddy in Brian Daigle. He's in the comments here watching over you, so you better not do anything wrong.
Thanks, Brian. Always a pleasure.
But once again, big up to all of you out there in the chat as well. Thank you for sticking around with us for this an hour and a half, and we'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.